Spoon.
Riddle spoon.
All right, we just trying to have a little bit of fun, even though this topic is not fun at all. I have been doing within the last month, if you all remember on the videos from Dawson and Denise TV, Black people don't trust the police, and we started out with the video of the black lady getting beat on the highway in California by the CHP over in California. Black people don't trust the police. And then we went on with the story that happened with Eric Garner up in New York in the chokehold with the NYPD over in Staten Island. Black people don't trust the police. Now we're here in Missouri with the shooting of this young man who apparently was unarmed. I mean, how many stories do we have in the United States of black men unarmed, but the police still shoot him anyway? Apparently, they said, Missy, explain the story. You got it down, Pat.
Basically, they're still coming out with details, but this young man, he was 18 years old, recent graduate of high school, was walking from his mother's house. According to his mother, he was coming from her house and he was on his way to his grandmother's house. Now, this is where the story gets conflicting because the police has one story, the witnesses have another story, okay? According to the witnesses, they were blocking the road. The two boys were blocking the road somehow, and they were not moving out the way fast enough, or they weren't moving out the way. So the officer got out the car to basically confront them, and I don't know if words were exchanged or not, but the two boys end up running, and a police officer shot him. Now, I don't know where the first shot hit him at, but they said when he got shot, he had his hands up in the air and he went down to the ground. The young man, and the police officer actually, after the boy got on the ground with his hands up, came up and shot him anywhere from 2 to 3 more times. Now, just to keep it fair, the police department says that the officer said that when he went to confront these two young men, that they attacked him and tried to grab for his gun. The police department is saying that one shot did go off in the car, and then after that, the boy somehow took off running. And the police officer, I guess after he regained his ground, chased after them and shot the boy, and then shot him a couple of more times. And I think the problem is, after the officer shot the boy the first time, and the boy went down, and keep in mind he didn't have a gun or anything on him, he shot him some more times after that. And at this time, the grandmother hadn't came from her house back down the street. She saw her grandson laying dead in the street. And it goes to what Dawson says. The problem is how the police respond to these situations. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm skeptical about the scuffle part. I really am, because everyone knows that ethnic boys, black boys, run from the police. You don't need this is just the truth. For black boys, men, ethnic boys do not need a reason for the police to shoot them.
Exactly.
Okay? Attacking them is basically asking to be killed. I mean, unless this young boy, you know, the media is going to dig and try to see if he has a criminal record or anything like that. I heard that he doesn't. The mother says he was a good boy, that he doesn't have a record. But unless it's something in his record that shows me that this boy was just crazy, a bad kid, I really find it hard to believe that he was that brave and attacked the police officer. You're not going to find many black people that's going to do that.
Exactly. And what my thing is this kid did graduate from high school, and apparently, I think he's starting college within next week, or the community college or whatnot.
He was planning to start.
He was planning to start college. So my whole thing is the people in Missouri, in this town, they're not taking this lightly. They're like, okay, this wasn't a drug boy, this wasn't a dope boy, this wasn't somebody who just did this. Was a young man who had a promising future, who the cops again, this militant John Wayne thing they have going on, they just take black people out. And then the whole thing about the scuffle, and I read that part, they said he scuffled with them in the car or something like that. I'm like, I don't agree with that. That just sounds too fishy with me. And the people who actually saw this, the witnesses who came up, They said that once the young man, if I'm not mistaken, he was shot, he like, he held his hand up and they came up and they shot him again. A couple more times. They didn't say just one more time. It was a couple times. And the fact is that when I looked on the television and I saw the police in this particular department, out of all of those policemen, a sea of policemen, and not to say if, it happened to be a black policeman there, things would be different. There was only one. So it's like you have these police, most of them white, who come into these black neighborhoods, and their whole opinion, and this is just me thinking, these people don't live in my neighborhood. They live in the projects. They live in the ghetto. I'm not treating them like human beings. I'm going to treat them like animals. And that seems to be the case not only in Missouri but around the United States. The police have about black people,
And did you see the image? The image was something like you were looking in the 1960s when you looked at the riots, how they had those dogs sitting there ready to, like, it was just like history all over again when you even look at the images that they have out.
It seems to me, and I was talking to my husband about this earlier, it seems that, I don't know if it's because we have greater access to media now, and that's why we hear so much about it, but to me it seems like it's occurring more often. Every time I go to my news feed, I hear this situation, that situation. I just read a story about an NYPD officer who basically was aggressive to a mother who was breastfeeding in public, told her that she's not allowed to, that it's against the law. She tried to say that she was allowed to do this, and she said, you know what, I'm going to get on my bus. I'm getting ready to miss my bus. He told her that she couldn't get on the bus, and she kept walking, so he grabbed her and yanked her by the collar of her shirt, made the 3-month baby fall out of her hand, hit the concrete. The baby died a couple of hours later at the hospital, took the mother to jail only to get released. She wasn't charged with anything because guess what? Breastfeeding in public is not legal.
Wow.
Okay, an officer basically was found not doing anything wrong. They said, yes, the officer had the law wrong, but he said the citizens need to listen to, basically they said because the officer thought he was within his rights. Basically, it's not that he did not intentionally misquote the law. He thought that was the law, and it was the responsibility of the lady to listen to him regardless of whether he was wrong or not.
So we'll go back to what we spoke on with the mental illness. Some of these cops are under stress and they have mental issues. They are hungry for power. So that's when you have someone yanking somebody and making a baby fall out of their doggone arms. That makes no sense. And I was going, like you said, going down my timeline, and a friend said to me that her son was going through his own sliding glass door. She has a black male son, 17 years old, going through his sliding glass door, and 3 police guys in unmarked cars jumped out and told him to put his hands up. He was like, well, I live here. And they're like, no, put your hands up and all this stuff. And it was just a big old uproar in their own yard. And they told us, well, we only did that because we heard, it was different things over here and it's been vacant. And she was like, no, we've been living here for 2 years. If you guys patrolled more often, you would know that.
Exactly.
So stuff like that, when I was reading, I was just shaking that you 3 guys pulling out a gun on this black baby in front of his own yard.
Well, as a black man in America, I'm used to these stories. I've been pulled by the police and told, at the time I was driving a 1996 car, I lived in the area where we have this car under investigation and all this kind of stuff, and where you headed and where you're going. You live around here? You got any drugs? You got a criminal record? No, I ain't got no criminal record. I'm putting away child molesters who most of them are white and Hispanic. Is it you? And I'm that bold, that I'll say that. Because I work in the mental health industry and I worked with child welfare, and most of the people who were molesting children on my caseload were not black men. They were men of other hues. So can I take those stereotypes and apply those to you? And it's like and that's why I encourage black men to get educated and for all of us to know the law. Because if we really, really, really knew the law, like we knew some of these rap lyrics and all this stuff and politics, they couldn't do this to us. They're not doing it to most, like you said, Hispanic people, but Hispanic people are taking over. They're getting in the White House. They're building themselves up in the local government. They're not going to be doing this to Hispanic people more. The Hispanic people are going to be more like the Jewish people are. They don't touch the Jewish people.
And that's what I was like. lead into that. I can't sit here and not say that we're not killing each other either. I can't sit here and turn a blind eye and we're going to just talk about the police and we're not going to talk about the gangs in our neighborhoods. But when we do it, it's we not snitching on them. You know what I mean? And that's not right either. We need to start standing, like you said, learn the law, stand together that they cannot bring us down.
Exactly.
Because it makes sense for us too, because it's another color doing it. But when we do it, it's we're gonna put on a shirt and go to the funeral and represent.
Shit, and you know what? She had a good point about, Spanish people building themselves up in politics and government positions. The other thing that I would like to say to add on to that is Spanish people have an option, and Jewish people have an option, and even Chinese people have an option that black people don't have. And that option is they are allowed to check white.
That's right.
Their senses. They have an option. Black people, we're not allowed to check white. Spanish people, Chinese people, Asian people, Jewish people, people from the Middle East are allowed to check white. On their senses, on their employee. Yes, yes, yes. That is a privilege that they have that black people will never have.
Why would we want to check white and we're black? Why would we want to check ourselves and make ourselves better? But we need to check a box. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But the reason I point this out is because this is how they mainstream in. This makes it easier. If you look down through history, when Irish
This is why we're a target. This is why we're a target. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
This is how they whitewash the races. What I'm saying, it is easier as a race for you to get more respect as soon as you start blending in as white. As soon as people start identifying you as white and not black. And I mean, it is a really, really significant thing or whatever.
Right. But I'll go back to when my grandmother and grandfather stayed in Hirschberg and we just had to build our own and they came. You know what I mean? It wasn't forget about checking the box. We were together as a people and we didn't even have to go and worry about anything else. You know what I mean? We built within.
Everybody's making good points. Everybody's making good points on this. But I think, it seems to be, I was talking with a friend earlier about this whole thing with the shooting and with our relationship with the police, because the police are going to be here. I mean, let's just face it. But the attitudes and the hostility that comes from them, not just from white or, Hispanic police, but even some of the black police, it is just it's just the hostility that comes from them. It's crazy. I mean, just for a traffic stop, or even if they're coming to your neighborhood, you're already a suspect. As a black male, you're number one suspect.
They treat us how they think we treat ourselves, and that's not true with everyone. We don't all go around, but they see in some of these neighborhoods, you don't give a dang about yourself or your brother, so you want us to come in here, Karen?
Yeah, and I think another problem is they put these officers in neighborhoods and they keep them there for, years. Like, say you got a white officer from a white community, has no idea about, black culture, black ideas, black community, and you put them in these rough communities where all they see is, gang violence, rough stuff, drug stuff. Well, what I think they need to do is find a white community to put them in, because white communities have these issues too. White communities have drug issues and burglar issues and stuff, but they put these cops in these communities where they see that day in and day out, and it starts to color their whole outlook, their whole view. So every person they run into, every black man they run into is a potential criminal. Not a potential innocent, a potential criminal. And they're just waiting on you to make the right move so they can go ahead and stamp you with that and ask questions later.
And that's what we see this happening, and especially with the Mike Brown shooting in Missouri, where this young man was about, like I said, to start college, finish high school and everything, and it's just so sad. It's so sad.
And I don't usually cry. I was sitting here crying earlier today because they killing our kids, and it makes no sense.
Denise, don't you start crying. Oh my God, she's over there crying. Don't start. And I'm crying. Everybody's crying because it's sad. And to see a father, this kid had his mama and his dad. His dad was just to see a man lose it. Like, my son. I can't touch my son. He's barricaded by these sheets and these caution tapes, and that's my son. That's my child. And for people who may look and say, oh well, look at the area they lived in, or look whatever. This kid had his dad and his mom there while his body was laying in the streets, an unarmed child. And nobody can sit here and say, I don't buy that there was a scuffle in the car and they've been after the police. I don't buy that. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. And it's sad. It's sad. I would say, I'm getting a feedback somewhere. I don't know where I'm getting the feedback from, guys.
From your end. From your end.
It's from my end? Okay. But I just think well, I'm not gonna say. Zahara, you want to say something real quick?
There is some feedback, so I hope you guys can hear me over there. I just feel Jennifer's pain. I feel Denise's pain. I told you earlier that I really can't keep up with all these stories of violence toward young people of color. And for me, I always try to look at things historically, and historically, Black people's humanity has been something that we've had to fight for. A lot of people know about the 3/5, rule or regulation that was, actually a part of the law. So it's just really interesting to me in terms of the law side of this, because I took basically a civil discourse class that my friend was hosting in New Jersey, and it was free, and she just is so passionate about people knowing their rights. And of course, at the time that the Declaration of Independence and some of these things were written, they didn't have certain kinds of people in mind. It was really like a classist, racist document, even though it said all men or all people. But it really is important for us to know our rights. And so for me, I just hang my hat on that, like in terms of some things that you guys have already said about, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you're in. It doesn't matter. It should not matter. Rather, of course, it does. Your skin color, your sex either, because obviously we say that a huge target is the male sex of our community. But it just really is something actually I cannot speak intelligently about because it's so unintelligent. So I just don't really have much to say about it. It's a feeling thing. It's an emotional thing. And for anyone who starts to, try to look at the social hierarchy, that part does not matter. I don't care where these people, have their house. They had a son, he deserved to live. That's the bottom line. And one thing that I'm still missing on this story is where the crime was. I don't understand why he had to be shot in the first place in terms of him running away, because what was the crime? I'm just a little confused on, that. I guess you guys say he was blocking some particular area or he's blocking the road. But just this idea of force, just the idea of what Denise said earlier about power, there is a obvious fact that the police is afraid for their lives. But I would just really like to see the statistics of police who are gunned down in the line of duty versus the people that they gun down and unreasonably. And so I just don't understand that. And I think that in all of this talking, sometimes race can become like, it can sidetrack the conversation. But maybe if we're really going to do something about this, maybe we need to do it from the standpoint of the law, since going about it, the race on the race side seems to start to distract people from the truth, which is that the police is abusing their power.
Exactly, and the statistics that she was asking about, it's a big difference. Believe it or not, there are not, compared to officer killing, gun killing is very, very high compared to police officers. Just don't get killed like that. That's just a fact. They don't. And you do make a good point. You need to address it from the law standpoint, but this is the problem, especially in states like Florida, Texas, and Georgia. The laws in Florida, Texas, and Georgia, and probably South Carolina are very, very strange, okay? You go to jail if you almost kill somebody, and when you kill them, you get off. I mean, the laws are very strange. It's not even just the police department. You know what I mean? What happens when you do go through the lawful way and you still don't get justice? Trayvon Martin, the lady whose baby, you know what I mean, basically was knocked out of her hands. Even though and this is what happened. These people win civil suits against the police department, but they lose the lawful legal suits. The police officers are still on the job. And listen, you want to know something? We can expand it out. We are living in a culture right now, which is the craziest thing, especially in the 3 states that I just named, where they are basically arming citizens. Citizens are allowed to make their own decisions and determine whether they're going to kill somebody or not out in the street. I'm not talking about with breaking into your house or breaking into your car or your personal property, because I personally believe if you come in somebody's home, you get what you get. But when you're out in the street and you just see somebody you don't know and you just think you're going to take it upon yourself to confront them, those are the type of laws that Florida, Texas, and Georgia is creating, which is why we're having all these gun issues.
You're absolutely right.
Because you can't dog so long before it gets up. So it's really a matter of time before the police keep doing what they do. People is gonna be the statistics are gonna go up.
Denise, some kind of way the mic is having a bad connection. We're not able to hear what you just said on your computer. We hear that though. Yeah. So it was something, but yeah, it's a bad connection. Yeah, it's getting kind of back, but I agree with what you said, Ms. D. I totally do. And you know, our thoughts and our prayers go out to the family of the young man who was shot, Mike Brown, and to the people of Missouri, because this is something. I mean, this is something that we're not going to. This is not going to be the end of it. I mean, we continue to see this every other week, and like you said, there is black on black crime, and namely in Chicago, here in Miami, and other places, California, Atlanta, and you know, we are, you know, as equally as concerned about the black on black crime there, as well as we are when we have incidents where police are gunning down, you know, black men, which we seem to be seeing a lot more often than not. So, thank all
Dawson,
of you.
I just want to say, I know you're closing up the show, but I just wanted to say one of the things that I learned in that civil course, or that course on civil rights, is basically that we have the right to change the laws. So you know how Ms. D is talking about the obscene laws in those 3 states. Well, one of the things that I learned is that it's us who actually can change them in terms of, you know, petitioning our lawmakers to do that. So that's something that I haven't had the energy for, but I am up for it. You know, in the wake of all of this that's going on, I think a lot of people probably feel like I would have never thought that I could change anything before, but right now it's just time.
It is. You're absolutely right. It's time. We can't sit back and continue to watch our kids die like this by police or by, you know, anybody else in the community, and whether they're black, white, or Hispanic. You know, like you stated, Z Marie, we can change the laws, and we just have to do that. We have to do it. So again, our prayers and our condolences go to the family of Mike Brown, to the people in his town out in Missouri. And I hope that, you know, there's a thorough investigation and that justice is, you know, is basically served. And, you know, it's kind of hard to tell people not to riot and not to loot and not, you know, to go through whatever emotions they're going to go through, being that it's just you're so closely related to it. And we don't know the dynamics of police relationships within that town, you know, than from what this incident that we saw. But from what, you know, everybody is doing there with the rioting and stuff, it hasn't been good. And it hasn't been good across the United States. And you said something very interesting, Z Marie.
Yeah, okay. You can hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you so much better. When we put race in it, it kind of, deters away from what we're looking for, which is the truth. And a lot of times out of our emotion when it comes from race is because there are tons of men, especially black men, who are on different levels. Some men who are, Barack Obama talked about being followed by police when the Trayvon, incident happened, his encounter with racism. So, as me being a college educated black man, I can't say that the guy who is a trash worker or somebody, I can't say, oh, well, they're lower than me. The thing we have in common is that we're black men, and that wherever we go in the United States, we're going to be seen as such. And when people say, oh, I don't see race, I don't see color, no, then if you don't see race and color, then you don't see me. But it's your interpretation of that. What comes with that? What are you thinking? It's like, oh, he's a black guy. What are what else what else you tag along with that? Oh, is he a basketball player? Oh, is he a criminal? Or is he that? That's something that my white friends don't have to deal with when they walk into a job office or into a bank or to a situation. And, I often talk with my white friends about this because a lot of times when things come up and I'm with them and racist, jokes are made or things that, I never saw it until that happened. So that's why I don't distance myself and say I'm only going to be around, black people, because we're in this world together. You're going to mingle with different people of different races. But when it comes to issues where people of a certain race are constantly getting marginalized and discriminated against and killed off like they're nothing, I think it behooves all of us, no matter what race you are, to have some.
And what I was trying to say when my microphone was acting up, or maybe yours anyways, but what I was trying to say, a dog will only let you kick them when they're down for so long. It will only be a matter of time before people start taking the law in their own hands and turn on the police, and those statistics will rise about people turning on them and killing them. I ain't trying to do no NWA type stuff, but you can't keep kicking a dog while they down.
Oh my God, Sister Soldier just come. No, and we don't want that to happen. We want to know that the police are there to serve and protect. And if there's bad stuff going on in the community, we want them to handle that. But here's the thing. You've got good people who stay in bad communities, and you got the bad people who stay there too. Or, it's the people who make the community bad or whatnot. So if my family has been living, nearby, Liberty City or something, they have a house there for years, and I happen just to be driving up, in a nice car going to my grandparents' house, and the cops stop me, and I'm like, yo, I've been living here all my life. Why do you stop me? Well, why are you driving this type of car? You got drugs, and they're hostile with it. I've seen this. They put you on the ground. They try to embarrass you in front of everybody. Not everybody is gonna go for that. Everybody, we know how it is. I'm at the type now, when they pull me, okay, man, do what you got to do, write the biggest ticket, I'll see you in court. I don't have time to be arguing with you, because it seems like the cops down here in Miami, that's what they want. They want to argue. They want to either plant something on you or say you did something just to take you down to jail, just to waste time. So, I just, okay, do whatever you got to do, man. I'll see you in court. And that's how I handle it. But not everybody is going to handle it that way. And that's why I think their attitude, how they deal with people, that has to be dealt with too, how they approach people. Because some of the cops are just nasty. And like I said, we have a lot of cops who are just John Wayne characters who just get on the job because they want to misabuse their power. We have tons of those cops that are on the streets. So this is a sad story again. We can go on and on about this, but like I said, our prayers and our thoughts go out to Mike Brown's mom, dad, the rest of his family, and the people out in Missouri. And I hope that justice is served, and that we just don't let this just be another senseless killing, because we've seen tons of those where the police have gotten off and nothing has been done. And we hope the people of Missouri continue to protest in a good way, and do what you guys got to do to bring this cop to justice. Until next time, I'm your guy Dawson, along with Denise, Z Marie, and Miss D. Thank you all for watching. Peace.